devoted a tremendous amount of her life's work to make the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, the law of the land. And she works really, really hard to inspire other individuals and groups to join together to make this happen. She's a social justice advocate. She's co-founder of ERA Action, and she is the ERA White House petition originator and coordinator. Now, that White House petition is still out there, so if you haven't had an opportunity to sign it, Tammy will tell you more about it. So, Tammy Simpkins, please come on up.
Thank you, Eileen Davis, for inviting us here from Ohio to come and speak to you today. I have to say it's kind of a surreal experience to be standing here in front of all of you. I remember last year around this time watching what transpired here in Virginia on the internet and just being blown away by it. I just couldn't believe what was happening really all across the country. And like we said, we traveled here from Ohio. My friend, colleague Heather Welsheimer and Kathy Galen in here, we traveled here, and you know, as we were driving here today to the rally, we were talking, here we are, we're in Civil War country, right? This is where, you know, everything went down, but yet we really are still at war in our country. And you know, women have been at the heart of this war. We are constantly being put out on, our reproductive rights are out for legislators, and it's outrageous. And it's just so inspiring to see you all here today that, you know, say we've had enough, and women are powerful. We are powerful. Let's say it. Let's get something going here in the crowd. So, like Andrew mentioned, something that actually Heather and I thought we should do. You know, we wanted the president to come out and support the ERA, whatever president that may be. We don't care if he has a D behind his name or an R behind his name. We want the support of the leader of the country that says we stand for democracy. Where's our democracy? Where's our liberty? Women don't have liberty in this country, and people in this country don't understand that. They don't know it. They think we have rights, but our rights aren't guaranteed in our Constitution. Alice Paul, back in 1923, introduced the ERA by Republicans, and it didn't even pass out of Congress till 1972. All it simply states is equality of rights shall not be denied or abridged in the United States or in any state on account of sex. And that, although it's going to be a blanket protection for women, that protects men too. Men are discriminated against on account of their sex at times, but obviously it's going to protect women more because we are the political pawns of our system. We are protected by one side, and the other side is taking our rights away. It's time we stand up and we support people that support us, and they don't just say, hey, we support you. They put their money where their mouth is.
That's right.
If you support us, prove it. If women work usually for free for these candidates. We knock on doors on both sides of the political aisle. We knock on doors, we make the phone calls, we do the work. So guess what? We're going to do work for people that come out and say, we will work for you. Because that's what they do. They work for us. And it's time that they start working for us. But the biggest problem we have and the biggest obstacle we face is people don't know the truth. People don't know that they're not equal in our country. And so that is the responsibility of everybody here to do something about that. We need education, and we need to not only educate each other, we need to educate our government, because there's a lot of people in the government that don't even know that the ERA isn't the law of the land. So we need to lobby, and we need to make our voices heard, and we need to support candidates that support us. We need to give them money and our time. And just some crazy statistics here. Nearly 3/4 of a 2001 survey, 72% thought that the Constitution already guaranteed a right for women. But 91% of the country thinks we deserve equality. So that is a very good selling point to put ERA at the forefront. And ERA needs to not be a dirty word anymore. Feminism became a dirty, ugly word. We need to embrace that. And we need to embrace that, hey, yeah, we stand for equality for the citizens of our country. So in honor of Alice Paul, this is just a great, like Andrea mentioned, we did the ERA petition. We launched it on Alice Paul's birthday, which was January 11th. We had to get 25,000 signatures within 30 days, and that was not an easy undertaking, I'll have to tell you. But so many groups came together, and they helped us, and we got our signatures, and we're still awaiting the response, an official response from the administration. So please get on there and sign that petition. It's still open. You can sign it until we get the response. At this point, we have over 30,000 signatures. And then I was blessed to come back to DC for the centennial celebration. It was 100 years ago that Alice Paul and the suffragettes marched in Washington for the rights of women. And I had a really good opportunity to meet your Senator George Barker, who was there marching for women's rights. And George Barker has introduced the Equal Rights Amendment here, or to ratify the ERA here in Virginia. And they didn't even let him get that out of committee. So you all here in the unratified state of Virginia need to be putting pressure on your Congress here at the state level, because you're holding up this state's one of the states holding up our whole country for equality. We're fighting, Ohio ratified the ERA, but we are fighting personhood amendments in Ohio. We need the ERA. That's just simple. That's all it is. So I'm calling you all to please join us. Get your organizations on board. We want 1,000 organizations supporting the ERA. And we are for the 3-state strategy. That means we need 3 more states to ratify. We're not for starting over. We want the 3 more states, and Virginia could be one of those states to be on the right side of history. Alice Paul said there's nothing complicated about ordinary equality, but yet we let it become complicated. So we need to come together, all of us, as citizens of our country, and stand up for women's rights. Thank you.
Hear it for Tammy Simpkins and the Ohio ERA Action Team. I met our next speaker, B.J. Thornburg, on a wintry morning back in 2011. We were standing outside and we had signs for the ERA. As a matter of fact, that sign down there, and there were 3 of us. And I remember thinking, good grief, there's just 3 of us. So hopefully the next time that we see the ERA coming up for a vote or in committee in Virginia, we will manage to get a lot more than 3 people out for that. So yeah, I mean, we've really got to turn out. We've turned out for voting rights. We've turned out for restoration of voting rights for ex-offenders. But we got to show up for us. Yeah. Now, about BJ. One of the toughest careers for a woman, or a man for that matter, is a military career. BJ knows firsthand how important ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment is for the military career for women who are in the military. He served in the U.S. Army and Reserves for 31 years, including he was an infantry platoon leader and company commander in Vietnam. and worked for the U.S. Army recruiting. Please welcome retired U.S. Army Colonel B.J. Thornburg.
I stand out in the cold winter time for that time. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I just have a few pages of notes, but I'll try to avoid them and get you back on schedule. Tammy told the whole story, okay? It is the ERA. I've stood here today and I've listened to some really important and significant issues thrown across the table, from abortion's rights through voters' rights through you name it. But I would tell you from a military perspective, the tactic of the enemy is always to divert your attention away from the central issue. Their defense is to divert you, to get you sidetracked, to get you off target and off mission, okay? The number one central issue is that women do not have equal protection under our Constitution. The 14th Amendment does not do it. The laws that are on the books do not do it. Okay? Laws can be changed, as we've seen, and judicial interpretations can be changed. As a matter of fact, Justice Souter made the comment not too long ago, and I will read this one because it's a quote. He said, "Certainly the Constitution does not require discrimination on the basis of sex." He says the only issue is whether it prohibits it. It doesn't. And those are his words. It doesn't. All right? The Constitution, the 14th Amendment, has never been designed, was never passed for women. It was passed for male minorities coming out of the Civil War. You heard from Andrea that I'm a 31-year Army veteran, retired. You know, my wife told me it was time to quit playing Army and get a real job, so I had to hang it up after all those years. But I'm also a father of 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl, and I'm here for all 4 of them because equal rights for women mean equal rights for men.
Yes.
The bottom line is, without equal rights, you don't have equal power. So you can't use your full power without equal rights. So we've all got to come on board, all got to come online and get this passed in my lifetime. Here's what it means to the defense of this nation. This nation is built upon a premise that all people are created equal. It's built upon a premise that we will stand up and utilize the military as needed to defend and protect this country. And women have been a big part of that from day one. Unrecognized in a lot of instances, but a big part of it. When I served in Vietnam, the only women we saw there were nurses and what we fondly referred to, some of us fondly referred to as candy stripers, which were young women who put their lives in harm's way to come over there on a voluntary basis to care for and help wounded soldiers. But they were in the combat zone and they were at risk. Women in Iraq, even though were not allowed to be in combat positions, women in Iraq, over 100 of them died, and over 600 were wounded. And with the recent decision by the Secretary of Defense Panetta in January to open all ground combat positions to women, what do you expect those numbers are going to happen in the next conflict? They're going to go up dramatically. But women do not have equal rights under the Constitution. We've got to fix that. We've got to change that. In a forward to a report on the all-volunteer force in 2009, Admiral Mullen made the following statement. The men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces are without question the most seasoned and most dedicated cadre of military professionals this or any other nation has ever produced. Admiral Mullen recognized the contribution, the professionalism, the dedication of women in the military. He then went on to close that by saying, you know, our young troops and their families, troops, men and women, have done everything that has been asked of them by their country. But women do not have equal rights under the Constitution. My words, not his. So, we've got to fix it. I heard Tammy refer to the ERA when it was introduced in 1970, I think it was, the original. Oh, okay. Yeah, right, and it came back in 1970. Well, there was a statement by Congressman Stuart McKinney, and he said about the ERA, use the draft as an excuse, if you like, or use anything else that you want to use. He said, we men are simply trying to preserve the right to say we can declare the difference. The bottom line is, men are not going to give it to you. You're going to have to take it. You're going to have to use your power and take what's rightfully yours. Let me just end by saying this state has been involved in matters of freedom and democracy and national defense from the very beginning of the country. And right out there, there's a plaque to the only known documented woman soldier during the War of Declaration of Independence, the War of Independence. Her name was Anna Marie Lane. And in February of 1808, she was actually recognized by the state of Virginia and awarded a pension, $100 a year pension for the rest of her life. Unfortunately, she fought in 1777. And this recognition came a little bit late because she only lived 2 more years until 1810. But at least it was recognized, and it's right there on the street. I encourage you all to walk by and pay your respects to Anna Marie Lane. She had to dress up in the garb of a man. She fought like a man and was wounded in the Battle of Germantown, Pennsylvania. I have worked side by side with women in the military, in the Pentagon. My last boss on active duty was a woman, and she was a true rocket scientist, and I mean that literally. But beyond being a true rocket scientist, she was very smart and a very good boss. And I learned a lot from her, and I owe a lot to her. Most importantly, I owe a lot to all of the women who have made this world and this nation a safer place to be. Thank you.